Once upon a time, there was a wise and benevolent king who ruled over a prosperous kingdom. This king had a loyal servant named Adigun, who always encouraged him with the words, "My king, do not be disheartened, for everything God does is perfect, with no mistakes." The king was married to a kind-hearted queen, and together they had 2 children, a brave prince and a curious princess. The kingdom's villagers adored their royal family and often sought the king's guidance. One day, the king decided to go on a hunting trip. He invited Adigun to accompany him, leaving the queen and the children in the care of the palace. During the hunt, a wild animal suddenly attacked the king. Adigun fought valiantly and managed to kill the beast, but not before it bit off the king's finger. Furious and in pain, the king said, "If God were good, I would not have been attacked and lost a finger." Adigun replied calmly, "I can only say that God is good and everything he does is perfect. He never errs." The king was so angry, but he didn't say anything. When they returned to the palace with the king's injury, the queen and children were deeply concerned. The villagers, hearing about the incidents, gathered outside the palace, offering their sympathy and support. Adigun, in his intention to console the king, repeated, "Despite everything, I can only say that God is good and everything he does is perfect. He never makes mistakes. Everything he does is for a purpose." Enraged by Adigun's assertion, the king ordered his imprisonment. As Adigun was being led away, he repeated, "God is good and perfect." The villagers were puzzled by the king's decision to imprison Adigun, knowing how loyal and wise he was. The queen, although troubled by the king's actions, respected his decision but continued to pray for Adigun's well-being. A few weeks later, the king decided to go on another hunt, this time alone. During this trip, he was captured by a tribe known for sacrificing humans to their gods. The tribe prepared to offer the king as a sacrifice, but upon discovering that he was missing a finger, they deemed him incomplete and unworthy of being offered to their deities. They released him immediately. The king, filled with relief and gratitude, hurried back to the palace. Upon his return, he called for Adigun to be released from prison. When Adigun stood before him, the king embraced him and said, "My friend, God was truly good to me. I was nearly killed, but because of my missing finger, I was spared. But tell me, if God is so good, why did he let me imprison you?" Adigun smiled and replied, "My king, if I had not been imprisoned, I would have accompanied you and would have been sacrificed, as I have all my fingers." The queen, who had been listening, approached and said, "Adigun's faith has always been steadfast, and his wisdom has guided us all. We must trust in the greater plan, even when we do not understand it." The children, witnessing this, learned a valuable lesson about faith and trust in the face of adversity. The king, moved by his servant's unwavering faith and the support of his family, addressed the villagers who had gathered outside. He shared the story of his capture and release, and how Adigun's imprisonment had ultimately saved his life. The villagers, inspired by the tale, cheered for Adigun and the royal family. They too learned to see the blessings in disguise and to trust in a higher plan. From that day forward, the king's faith in the greater plan was as strong as Adigun's. The queen and children continued to support and love their people, and the villagers, with renewed faith, lived in harmony and prosperity. The kingdom thrived, not just because of the king's wise rule, but because they all had learned to see the silver lining in their hardships and to trust that everything happens for a reason and often, it is for the best. That is the end of the story. If you find this video interesting, hit the like button, subscribe and click on the bell notification icon for more videos like this.